Hi everyone, Sean Casey here, and I'm delighted to be joined by now former Armagh coach Kieran Donaghy. And Kieran, after 5 years, you're stepping away from Armagh.
I am, yeah. Didn't think the day would come, to be honest with you. It's hard. It's a very hard group to leave, but the management group that we're in, we've great fun. Never feels like anything but enjoyment when you get in the door. We meet about 2 hours before training, eating too many buns, so I might lose a bit of weight now that I'm finished coaching in Armagh. But no, it's been really enjoyable, and obviously the bunch of players are just a fantastic group to work with and so easy to coach. And the time has come to an end. Yeah. My 3 girls wanted me to stay on because they love going up to Tassa, up to the Fagans, and Tassa up to Basil Shields. So they were mad at me to stay on, but I tell them we'll still go up on holidays and we'll still go visit for games and stuff. But time from the sideline is finished.
It's bound to be such a difficult decision, Kieran, because you've spent like 5 years is a long time, and to be with the boys and with that management team for such a long time, like it's bound to be difficult to step away from that.
Yeah. Hugely emotional. You build up a bond, obviously, with any group, but when you're with a group for 5 years and see them go through, so many tough times, and obviously then you had the glory run last year that saw them get that medal that they so desperately wanted and probably deserve with the work that they put in. And I thought they were brilliant this year, in fairness. They gave a great rattle at trying to defend it, just came up against an unbelievable 14-minute onslaught from a great Kerry team. But they've been brilliant ambassadors for the county, so it is a difficult one, as I said, when you've built the bonds and relationships with both players and management and the county and the people of the county. To be honest with you, it is a home away from home for me. It began very much as a kind of geezer looking for a bit of help, maybe with a bit of movement in the forwards from a rookie coach, like I said in my statement. And I was obviously looking to learn off of somebody like him. I had him as a coach in Australia, and I never came across anybody like him. So I was kind of saying to myself that this would be a great opportunity to learn for a year, and just because that's what he was looking for. But the first year was kind of COVID. It was a bit unfortunate. We lost that unbelievable game in the Marshes to Monaghan, and probably that's what this Armagh team does. Is they keep you on the edge of your seat for as long. It's not that good for the ticker, but after that, then obviously the penalties against Galway, and you saw how Galway ran that Kerry team so close in that final in 2022, and you were kind of saying, okay, we're not far away as a group, and that was always harder than to step away. But it's definitely not easy.
You were saying about working with Geezer in Australia. Like, would you have knew much about him before? Obviously, you'd come up against him, but would you have known him personally before that or anything?
Not really, no. Not really, no. I played with him in the international rules in 2006, and obviously that was after the year that Kerry beat Armagh in that quarter final, where I was throwing a few elbows into him to try and get him off me because he was sweeping in front of me. But I wouldn't have hugely come across him before that. And then with the international rules team, you got to see the kind of leader he was as a player, and that was enjoyable for me because it was also new for me. I played for Munster in 2005 above Crossmaglen in a game, and then I was kind of properly onto the Kerry team, we'll say, in 2006, so it was all very new. So to get to play with the likes of McGeaney and Kieran MacDonald and these fellas in 2006 was a big thing for me. And as I said, then he was coaching 2008 and 2011, and I was probably the court jester on those trips, in charge of the fines and all that kind of crack. So I think he kind of knew me as a kind of a bubbly person, and obviously knew the way I played, which was probably unselfish, and that's what he really wanted me to focus in on, was to kind of bring that ethos that it doesn't matter who scores once Armagh score. That was one of my main focus points earlier on in my career, but didn't come across him too much until them trips. But remember going away kind of thinking he's an inspirational man, and you would love to play with him on a regular basis if he was a captain of yours, So when we actually met in the game where Armagh nearly beat Mayo. I was working with Sky Sports at the time, and I met him after the game in the hotel out in Westport, and he said, will you come down for a drink? The management team's fairly low there in the cage, and he said you might pick up the bit of energy of it. So I went down, had a great chat with him for a few hours and a few pints, and drifted off into town. But maybe it was after that, I'd say the seed was maybe in his head to say, would this fella be able to help maybe?
That was 2019, I think, so it was then late 2020 that the call came.
Yeah.
And were you surprised initially?
I was.
Yeah.
Thought it was a prank call, if I'm being honest. But yeah, no, I was definitely surprised. He was. I was in a hotel in Dublin, and I saw the phone number from the North calling, and I was like, okay, who's this? And I answered it, and you know, I was like, initially I was kind of going like, no, like it can't work. But he was cute. He'd all his research done. He said, you're building a lot of pitches with your company, PST Sport, above in Dublin, and I see you up there all the time, and you're opening pitches, and you've loads going on up there. We're only an hour up from Dublin, you know that, and you could do your meetings in Dublin and maybe train, and then if you had other meetings to do the next morning on your way home, it would only be an hour either way. And so he did a good job selling at the start. That's the line I went to Hillary with as well, my wife, when I was trying to get it over the line at the start. So, but yeah, it was completely left field for me. But again, as I said at the start, kind of very exciting opportunity, selfishly from my own point of view, to see what way this guy works and to get in under a hood of a county like Armagh, a kind of a great footballing county, and to see how they do things, because I was obviously played with Kerry for 15 years, so I was pretty sure of how they worked, and I just wanted to see something else.
And what was there a big difference in terms of culture or styles, or how, you know, support or anything between, you know, that Kerry aspect and coming and seeing Armagh?
I suppose the facilities is one in a way. Thanks be to God, I know we're trying to fundraise for new pitches, but Callan Bridge was a bit of a shell shock for me when I saw it for the first time. But it reminded me actually of Kerry in my early days. We used to do a lot of training at the back of Fitzgerald Stadium, and it was murder ball stuff. You know, it wasn't. Could you even call it a pitch? It was a juvenile sized pitch, but it was where we would have done the hard yards and the running and tearing in very dim lights, and it took me back to that. And but yeah, no, like there was, you know, how probably player led the group was, and that's becoming more of a thing now, I'd say, general across the thing. But he was probably a bit ahead of his time on that, and yeah, just seeing how they operated, how big they bought into everything, you know, how hard they trained, you know, how tough the gym sessions were and how much they applied themselves to the gym session, which was, you know, coming towards the end of my Kerry career. I could kind of see that coming in Kerry versus the start of my Kerry career, where it was maybe bench press, a few curls, and head down to the jacuzzi or go for a swim. But it wasn't as serious as it was now. But no, it was very interesting looking in. You know, the homework that's done in the opposition would probably be something that would have been new enough to me. You know, Kerry would focus on the opposition, but would mainly concentrate on themselves, where, you know, what I found up here was that there was huge amount of homework and digging into the opposition and getting phone calls from fellas and trying to find out as much as both players and the way they play, and, you know, what their preferences are as player. And that was definitely an eye-opener for me at the start, yeah. And
we'll obviously talk about the All-Ireland, but you touched on some of the darker days. You'd mentioned even that Mayo one in 2019. I'm sure a load of people remember it down in Castlebar. You mentioned Monaghan in the Marshes in 2021. A few of them penalty shootouts, Ulster finals as well. Like, it was a tough journey, Kieran, to get to 2024 and to get up the steps of the Hogan Stand.
It was a lot of dark days, and I suppose that's what the special thing is about that group, and why they'll bounce back from this year as well, is, you know, they're made of tough stuff. And even myself, I remember going down after the Monaghan game in 23, just gutted, you know, at probably the lack of performance in that game. And, you know, having talked about that we're good enough to win an All-Ireland, and you know, kind of going out in a kind of bit of a damn squib like that was very disappointing. And, you know, people at home kind of saying, you know, you're wasting your time, you know, you've enough done up there, now come home. But I was steadfast in my belief in the group that there was huge potential in them, and that, you know, that if we got it to click, you know, that they were good enough to go on and win it. So, and Kieran being a very sharp and astute manager, that when the season finishes, it isn't too long before he's on again, to make sure everybody is fully bought into the next step, which is, you know, your following pre-season. And I think obviously, look, he's one of the most resilient characters I've ever come across, and played like that. And I would say that type of resilience is very much fed off on his core group of players who have been with him from the start of this journey, and that have fully bought into his story and what he's trying to portray, and very much lived that out, I would say. And yeah, so that was a huge thing to kind of be a part of and see that. But there was, you know, they were so tough to the point where a lot of teams wouldn't be able to do what them players did in 2024. They just wouldn't be able to. You know, the Ulster final heartbreak was, you know, tough for a bunch of lads who didn't have that medal, and obviously didn't have an All-Ireland medal, and it's a huge medal up here to get, and to see them, you know, constantly play really well and just come up short with a bit of luck was tough. So yeah, there was dark days for sure, but I think we were all bought into what Kieran was selling, that this team was good enough, and we just have to keep itching and scratching and trying to get that a little bit better.
I think that the Ulster final last year was, you mentioned how difficult it was leaving Clonus that day, because as you said, Armagh hadn't won an Ulster in so long, and it just felt like another penalty shootout defeat, another loss in a big game. It just felt like it was never going to happen. But was there ever that feeling in the changing room, or was it always, we're good enough, we just have to keep going and it'll come someday?
Yeah. I can honestly say, from speaking from a management point of view and being in there in a way, we always felt we were good enough to win the ultimate, which was actually Kieran's main focus. You know, the Ulster Championship was very important, obviously, but the main focus was trying to be as healthy as we could be for the group stages. He just looked at that as like, that's really where you need to be all in. And even this year, like, we didn't risk players at times. We wanted to make sure that we were fully healthy as we could be for that group stage, because it's so tough. And you know, even this year with the group and how hard our group was, it was really important that we got them out of that. You know, they scored 27 points against Donegal in the Ulster final, and it still wasn't enough. You know, conceded a kind of like gammy enough kind of goal, as we'd say in Kerry, and very unlucky ourselves not to get 2 goals on the day, which, you know, so it was tough after those games. But no, we were steadfast in the belief that we could do it, and very quickly after that disappointment, and we gave the lads their night of a blowout, which you need to do as well. But the next day we met and kind of talked about, you know, having to go after it again, and you know, the next game was everything at that point.
And then obviously you get through the group, get to Croke Park, win a big game in Croke Park, get through to the semi-final, and taking on Kerry. How difficult was that for yourself? I know you'd experienced a couple of league games, but I'm assuming All Ireland semi-final is different.
Yeah, no, league is alright. There isn't too many people fussed about league games in Kerry, but an All Ireland semi-final is definitely different, and it was hard. I make no bones about it, but I was fully invested in what I was doing, and had to honour that for the group, and they would know that as well, and they know I would love Kerry, obviously, but you know, on those days in particular, you have to be fully bought into what you're trying to do, or you know, players will see through any back off or anything like that very, very quickly, and that wouldn't be my character in a way, you know what I mean? It's when I'm invested in something, and at that stage, which was 4 years of my life, you know, I was fully invested in trying to win the game, and obviously the fall off of that was knocking Kerry out of the championship, which was definitely hard, especially when, you know, I'm Kerry man, played for them for 15 years, work in a business in Kerry, I had to go down to the people and get a few dirty looks here and there, but you know, that was the way it was, and so yeah, but it wasn't easy. But you know, that game was a game that summed up this team in many ways, where you know, they had to be very defiant in how they went about it. It wasn't looking good for long periods, but they just kept battling, kept clawing their way back into it, and, you know, kicked huge scores in that game. And, you know, I think Soupy Campbell, who we've obviously asked to do a role, had to come in and do that role for so many times, and he was a major influence in coming on, and that score he kicked in particular, the hand pass, brilliant hand pass from Rory Grugan. A big thing of mine is a good pass lead to a good shot, and Rory hit a 20-yard hand pass that hit Soupy here, where he just had to drop it onto his boot. I felt that was a big score in the game, and, you know, obviously Reen's one as well was huge from I don't know, 55 yards, and you could just feel the boys believing a bit more. And even when, you know, it didn't finish up in a win in normal time, I could feel in the dressing room when we got them settled and we got our management team together and picked the team for the extra time, that the work that Julie Davis would have done, they would have it in the legs in extra time, and we'd been through it in extra time obviously a few times. So but yeah, it was a big moment for this team, because Kerry, another thing I probably learned is how much kind of, even though, you know, anytime a team from the north beats Kerry, it's kind of thrown at Kerry people that, oh, you know, but Kerry have beaten plenty of teams from the north at different times over the years that have a lot better record than people would actually believe. But there's a huge admiration for Kerry football in the north, and I would have felt that from the people of Armagh when they would talk about Kerry. And, you know, even that game, that, like, you know, the fact that they beat Kerry, you know, I think there was a huge bolt of confidence went through the county after that game that, Jesus, we might actually go on and win this thing. So that was a very important game for the group, no doubt.
And I think, looking back on it, it was mentioned a lot before the Kerry game this year, just the support that Armagh had that day, and how that was a big factor in Armagh getting over the line. I suppose for the 5 years that you've been here, Kieran, you sort of embraced the support, and I know you got a lot of love on Twitter once you announced that you were stepping away from the Armagh Support. But from an outsider coming into Armagh, are they the craziest / best fans in the country?
They're right up there in a way. They're right up there. I'd say a bit of madness down in Cork, you know, for the hurlers this year might rival it a small bit, but no, they were they're terrific. Like, you know, they're mad about their football, very passionate, and yeah, that was a huge factor in that game. But that's, you know, that's probably it probably got extra recognition because Jack O'Connor knew it from the Kerry point of view. You could feel it there in the day. It was you know, them 50-50 balls that we were coming out with, and it was to the point so much that Kerry sent out their own rallying cry from David Clifford and Jack O'Connor before this game, and the Kerry people knew they had to answer the call because of what happened last year, because they were so heavily outnumbered, and it was a big thing for Kerry that they were able to get that kind of support up the road for our game. And you could tell how serious the Kerry people took this year's quarter-final, but the Armagh fans from league games, from, you know, on the road, how early they are at games. I'd be arriving for games normally, the management are getting there 2.5 hours, 3 hours before a game, and they're there queuing up, rain, hail or snow, and they're fantastic supporters of the county. And you know, it was lovely last year to see them get the recognition both in the games, but also get the feeling of what winning in All-Ireland means for a whole kind of new generation, which is very important, and something that we'd always say in Kerry is, you know, you want to keep trying to win your All-Irelands, because every kid at that kind of vital age between kind of 7 and 10, you know, they're looking up to their heroes, and if they can see them going winning, that age is very important for them to be out practicing, for them to be out by themselves, kicking a ball off the wall, thinking they're Rian O'Neill or David Clifford or whatever it may be. You know, that's where the footballers, the great footballers, come from, is that it's not the training sessions with their club on a Sunday morning. It's the bit of imagination. It's the bit of wanting to be like somebody else. And I feel like that was very important for the Armagh fans last year, and how much they enjoyed the All-Ireland was obviously very important for that, because you see the young generation. You saw all the McKeever Armagh jerseys were, I'd say, he had a bumper year in jersey sales, because it was something I noticed when I came up here first. I couldn't understand why there was Galway jerseys and Kerry jerseys and Dublin jerseys everywhere. I looked around Armagh, I couldn't get my head around it, because in Kerry, you're only wearing a Kerry jersey, you're not wearing any other, you know, unless you're a father or some other county, you might have one other jersey, but you know, even the Fagans who I stayed with, like they were showing me Wexford jerseys and Kerry jerseys, and I was like going, how many Armagh jerseys do you have? You should be wearing the Armagh ones, because that's where I come from. But no, last year and maybe 23, 24, maybe after even that Galway game, I could just see so many more Armagh jerseys around the streets of Armagh when I'd be up for training sessions or whatever.
On the All-Ireland, the build-up, Kieran, was, for the supporters anyway, was incredible. Just the fanfare and flags and painting in Crossmaglen, they painted the white lines in the middle of the road orange and white, and the curbs on it. Was a crazy build-up, but you probably don't get to enjoy the build-up, or certainly don't enjoy it as much as the supporters, because you are so focused, you have a job to do. How difficult the 2 weeks was that build-up in terms of trying to keep the hype down in the changing rooms, or did you sort of try to embrace it, or how did you go about it?
Yeah, I think Kieran did a good job in settling the players down after the Kerry game, because it was such a buzz, and he said, you know, just concentrate now, just go away, get your recovery, get as much recovery as you can tomorrow, eat properly, rehydrate, watch the other semi-final, and we'll be on with the rest of the details. And we met that morning, that Sunday morning early, and you know, we got an awful lot of the stuff out of the way. You know, who looks after the tickets for you as player, how do you deal with the ticket requests, you know, trying to take as much out of the players' hands that they could just focus on football. Aidan Falker's wife Emer was very good. She took all the kind of girl side of it, where they were going, how they were getting, you know, bags, suits, dresses to hotels, like all that kind of stuff, and just really focused in on, you know, getting all the kind of controllables to a degree done and out of the way for the players. So my one was like, you know, get to nominate one of your parents to the tickets. If you want a ticket, ask my mum. She has the list. She knows who needs them from my family, and I have a big family, and I don't think I have too many more, but you can ring her and deal with her, and just don't be saying to a fella, because I remember my first year, I'll see what I can do, and I'll see what I can do, and you're there Friday night getting ready for packing your bag for the All-Ireland, you've 10 fellas ringing you, panicking, have you tickets for me, and you're stressed trying to say no and trying to get them tickets. So just trying to get all them little things out of the way. But you're right, it's very, you know, we went down then as a management, we went down and watched the semi-final between Galway and Donegal to see who we'd be playing, see what they were doing. And then it was another meeting Monday to try and figure out the opposition, and then it was straight back into training. And you know, we kind of planned out the next 2 weeks of training and what we needed to cover off, and in order to give ourselves the best chance of winning it. So there wasn't much fanfare from our side, but you know, I'm sure the fans had a great time. It's a very exciting time. I can see the Kerry at the moment, they're on a high, getting ready for this final. So it's a great buzz to be a fan during that time. But as a player who won a lot of finals and lost a lot of finals, it is the other side of that victory in the All-Ireland is absolute devastation. Do you know what I mean? So you're just, I was just hoping for our boys that they wouldn't have to feel what I've felt plenty of times before. I wanted them to, while they were there, to have that euphoric moment where you realise you're the best team in the country and nobody can take it away from you.
And if the 2 week build-up was brilliant, Kieran, obviously the All-Ireland itself and the couple of days after it were just magical. But was there any one moment that stood out for you over them couple of days after the All-Ireland final?
Yeah, obviously the dressing room afterwards is a lovely place to be. You know, that's a lovely speech to listen to the manager give when you have it won, and it's the canister sitting up on the table, and you know, it's a great vibe. The beers are flowing and the buzz is good, and you know, the boys probably didn't know what was ahead of them. I had a fair idea of what was ahead of them, but maybe not to the degree of madness which I encountered at the Carrickdale Hotel when we were pulling up, and there was cars abandoned everywhere, and it was people had lined the bridge, and John and his team in the Carrickdale put on an unbelievable reception for us there with the cup, and then a great night obviously over in the hotel. And then obviously the next day then we went to the athletic grounds, and that was special to me in a way. We've often done the buses or the truck trailers on stages in Killarney and Kerry, and it's class, but I just thought the notion of going to the home stadium and all the fans been out in the pitch and in the stands, and Tipperary did something similar there. I saw the last day, so that's a lovely moment and probably the highlight for me to see Kieran lifted out in front of their own people and their own patch. It was lovely.
And the difference in winning one as a player, Kieran, and winning one as a coach and being part of a management team that wins one, is there different emotions, or how is it different at all?
I don't know about different. I think when you're playing, it's, you're obviously, for me, I'd be, worried about the team and making sure every fella is right and plays well, and obviously then you have to play well yourself. But I just think when you're maybe in a management group, there's just so many hours that people don't see that goes in, the 5 or 6 hours of huddle footage every week that you're trying to trawl through to see some little chink in the opposition or something that you're doing well yourself that you want to re-emphasise or maybe do more of. Obviously for me there was the driving up and down twice a week, which is 10 or 11 hours both ways, so like kind of a day in the car almost between going up and down, and there was an awful lot of time and family commitments on my own side with Hillary and the kids, and even my mom helping out at home. So there was a lot of effort went in to allow me to keep going and chasing with the team. So there was a huge sense of satisfaction of it. But I think as a player, when you're out there and you're banging in goals or points, it's pretty hard to beat as well. So it's hard to actually compare them. But I think the moral of the story is they're both very special, no matter what way you dice it up.
And I suppose this year, then, Kieran coming in as defending champions, I suppose the first objective was retain Division 1 status, and that was achieved in the Ulster, another Ulster final, and another devastating defeat in the Ulster final. And is it tough for that group that they haven't got over the line in Ulster? Obviously, the All-Ireland medal is the ultimate, but...
Yeah, I think it is. I think obviously it's devastation after the game, but... I still think the ultimate goal is trying to win Sam Maguire. It always was for me as a player, and since I've been in with this management group, it was always mentioned that that's what we want to do and that's what we're trying to do, and we have to try and do everything in our power to help the lads try and get there. But no, like it's a lovely one to win, obviously, but I think last year when you won the All-Ireland, there wasn't too many people were worried about what happened a few months ago. But yeah, it's for players. I think any player that's serious and that's putting in the time that these fellas want in a team that has a chance, I think the ultimate glory is obviously to try and win Sam Maguire, and in our case this year we were trying to retain it. So I think we were cautious at times with team selection about fellas that had any niggles or knocks, whereas if you were probably going all out, that would be something that you might take a risk on at times. But it was just about trying to get to the group stage in the best shape possible, as I said earlier on, and try and give that quarter-final a rattle. Obviously you probably weren't expecting me to be Kerry in that game and to end up Kerry being the only team you could get. But even in the game against Kerry, like we were playing relatively well. We were 5 up, going well. They just hit a crazy purple patch, and Kerry can do that. They've got devastating forwards, and they kicked 4 2-pointers at that stage, and it was just that emotional kind of upsurge from them in terms of belief and confidence, and it was having the opposite effect on our boys. We couldn't get our hands on the ball. We couldn't get a score up to the end of the pitch. So it was tough, but they gave it a great rattle. You couldn't, if you'd have lost where you didn't perform at all, or you kind of limped out of it. We were fighting right till the very end, even though we were well down. Like we kept fighting and kept scrapping, and that's all you can do. But yeah, just that run from Kerry was just devastating on the day, and something that we couldn't recover from.
And looking ahead to the future, Kieran, where obviously the Win with Armagh project is well underway at this stage, and it's so important for everybody to get behind what the campaign is trying to do, because you'd mentioned Callan Bridge before, and there's not too many people who would enjoy being in Callan Bridge in November, December time, trying to run around the muck and the gutters. But it's important for everybody to get behind what the campaign stands for.
It is, yeah. Look, it's probably doubling down on what what happened with the team last year and winning the All-Ireland, like that's going to inspire a generation of youngsters, like, you know, and when they're going for their academy teams and they're going into the new facility in Portadown, it's going to be like, you know, it's a huge difference into what they be going into in Callanbridge. Like, I'd say it'll be kind of like, wow, this is class. Like, I want to do this. And that's what you want. You want for players to be able to go, and you want obviously for the teams to have the best facilities and the best pitches. And it's hugely important, I feel, for Armagh. And I know people are, and I know the draw so far have been great, but every penny and every contribution will help to build a place that Armagh will call home in terms of a training centre. But those young players coming through are going to walk into a serious setup, and you know, this All-Ireland in 24 will be right there in the horizon for those players, because, you know, it won't have been that far long ago. If you're 16, 17, you're coming into a minor team now and you're training, what you want them to say is, geez, this is an amazing facility, I want to keep going. So it is important that people get behind it for sure. Not so much for now, but for the future of Armagh football. And I think that's where most people that are putting in their hands in their pockets know that they want this current team to be supported with good young players coming through and to build for even further down the line.
And your own future now, Kieran, you were saying off air that you're not playing anymore. You've hung up the boots, both football and basketball. Mm-hmm. So what does the next wee while look like for you?
I have a bit of coaching to do with my 3 girls at home. Like, the solos aren't good enough, and the bad legs are bad, so we've a good bit of work to do. So even in the basketball, the crossover dribbles just aren't where they need to be. The follow-throughs and the shots from the older 2 are okay, but the 4-year-old isn't reaching the basket, so we have to do a bit of work with her. So I'd say a good bit of time at home, and just enjoying that, focusing on work a bit, because, you know, fairness, Colin and the team in PST, we've 20 people in the office. You know, they know when I'm doing this side of it that there needs to be a bit of leeway given to me. They're very good with that. They know there's plus sides, obviously. You know, being involved with a high profile team, you're getting contacted about pitches maybe a bit more than you would, but it's time focusing in a bit of work and focusing in the family at home, and enjoy watching National League games without having to study them and without having to delve into too much. But yeah, no, that's the plan in a way, is just to take a little time out and enjoy a bit of home time, yeah.
And probably the most important question for the week that's in it, who's going to win the All-Ireland?
Obviously the heart is saying Kerry, and the head is saying that it's going to be a coin toss, that it's that tight. Obviously I've prepped for Donegal a lot over the last number of years. You know how good they are, the options they have with Michael Murphy back in particular. He's given them a real kind of fulcrum up front. And they've got a good bench and a good squad, and obviously a good ethos in their gym. So they'll be very hard to beat. But, you know, as we found out this year with Armagh, it's if Kerry hit form and if the boys are on form, if the Cliffords and Shawnee O'Shea's and Paddy Cliffords are going well, Kerry will be hard beat as well. So that's why it's so tight. But probably as usual in big finals, probably the supporting cast. You know, it's how the fellas that mightn't be really in the spotlights talk. It's the Joey McIlroy block last year. It's the Grimley catch and pumping it over the bar from 50 yards with 2 fellas hanging off them. It could be a Breen Begley, who's, you know, a really good player, maybe going under the radar a bit going into this final, but it could be someone like that gets 1-2 that, you know, puts their team in a position, or Kieran Moore goes along and kicks 3 or 4 points. It's going to be, you know, it's often one of the fellas that, you know, we aren't really talking about in the build-up of the game will decide it, but it'll probably come down to breaking ball, as we're seeing with the game now. It's just such an important part. It's what we couldn't get our hands on against Kerry. It's what Kerry did really well against Armagh, and indeed Tyrone after that kind of initial first 15 or 16 minutes. Something Donegal are very good at historically in the last few years, really good at getting breaking ball, and so it'll come down to who's willing, who wants it more, who's winning the dirty ball, and maybe even a bit of luck in the day. That's how tight it is, you know, a referee's decision, a ball hitting the crossbar or a post, not going into the net, going wide. Something as tight as that. But yeah, the heart is definitely saying we hope to see Kerry do it.
Kieran, it's been great chatting to you. Thanks very much. We appreciate it and appreciate all you've done for Armagh over the last 5 years. And I know the supporters are definitely going to miss you, and I'm sure the players and management feel the same. So that's all we have tonight, folks. We are still running our Win with Armagh campaign. We encourage everybody to get behind it. There's about 5 weeks left until the draw on the 24th of August, so still plenty of time to get your tickets. I encourage everybody out there to get behind the campaign. So thank you everybody for supporting us, and thanks to Kieran for coming on and having a great chat.